Okay, Trish, we are recording now, and for the sake of everybody watching, would you please give us an introduction to yourself?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Firstly, I just want to thank you very much for having me here. I just think it's awesome. And I think there's nothing nicer than having an interview to be able to bring out the trueness and the realness and the authenticity in someone. So I think it's just an awesome process. So I want to say thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
So a little bit about my background. So it's it's like, where do you start? It's so firstly, I'm based here in New South Wales, Australia, which is very exciting. So here I am in Australia and I'm talking to you there in California.
Colorado.
Okay, awesome. So Colorado in America. So that's exciting in itself. I just love the power of what we have in our hands, the fact that we've learned all these skills to be able to connect from halfway across the world and have these conversations. I think more than anything, the business that we have created here, for it to be able to connect us from all around the world is hugely exciting. To do this every day is such a pleasure. So yeah, New South Wales, Australia, a place called Newcastle, and it's 2 hours north of Sydney, and it's a sort of miniature city, which is, they call it the hidden secret here. It's gorgeous. It's plenty of beaches and cafes and restaurants and movie theatres. However, it sort of hasn't changed a lot in a lot of time. There's development starting to come in now, but people sort of wander around the streets. It's got a beach feel, beach attitude, but we still have jobs and we still have, infrastructure here. So it's a beautiful place to live, which I'm really pleased about. I moved from Sydney, which is the big city, the big smoke. I moved from there, now that was 1999. So it was about 15, 16 years ago. And it was as a result of a couple of tragedies that happened in my life. It was a huge turning point. And it was, you go through the motions in life, you meet someone, you get married, then you find that things aren't happening the way they should. You feel that you're not connected into that marriage as well as you should be. And so 93, I got married, 1993, 95, I had my daughter. That was just such a blessing. It was amazing. And then by 97, we'd found that the marriage was starting to fall apart, and it was tragic in itself. So by 1997, 2 years into that marriage, I'd left. I actually packed the car, literally with my belongings, and no job at the time because I'd made a choice to be an at-home mum. So I packed the car with belongings, with my daughter in the car, and literally said goodbye to Sydney. And I remember driving out of that street very clearly. There are some memories that are not very clear, but there are some memories, defining moments in your life. Absolutely. And I drove down that street and I looked around at that main street and said, never again will I experience or see this place again. And it was just a huge defining moment for me because I had nothing but a car full of belongings, my daughter, and I literally trekked off. And I came up here to basically get emotional support from my parents, because what did happen was I got news tragically that he passed away in a motorcycle accident as well. Wow. And so you can imagine the mix of emotions that you do go through. You go through guilt for leaving. You go through guilt of the what ifs, what could have happened, because I'd always planned on having more children. And so all of a sudden, abruptly, life just turns it on its head and you're just presented with this adversity. And there were so many moments, defining moments in that year that just really, I think, made me who I am today. Back then, I would never have thought that I would be here then, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
It's, there were so many defining moments. So I, with my car, no money, I no college degree, no anything, no university education. I literally went up north, went to stay with my parents to get the emotional support, and then had to go to government for financial assistance, financial support. So that was a pretty low point in life. That was pretty devastating. And you go through all those mix of emotions during that time. But what rises out of that? Like it's like, and I've heard this saying, the phoenix rising from the ashes, or it's just something happens in you, something really stirs in you that really says to you, well, you're it now. You're the, Emily was 4 or 5 years old at the time, and you are it for her. You are that role model. You are that person. You are that, she's depending on you.
Right.
So the only thing I knew at the time was to go out and get a college degree, a university education. I had a very bad schooling. I was a rebel at school. I dropped out at 15. So it was, you can imagine, even that was a massive breakthrough for me to actually get accepted into a college. My parents were like cheering, wow, it's taken this amount of time to actually get her into college. But it was based on really my work and what I'd actually done at work. I'd actually been doing the role of an accountant, previous to my marriage. And so that helped me to get into college. Thank goodness, really, because that was the beginning again of me finding my own purpose. And I know that sounds strange. A lot of people say, you do university degrees, what's the whole purpose of it? You get good, the whole idea is to get good grades, get a good profession. Yeah, I understand part of that. However, during that time, in that point in my life, it gave me flexibility. It gave me the opportunity to be with Emily. I studied. I enjoyed studying. I enjoyed the people I was studying with. It gave me a purpose. It gave me a direction and a pathway and a new, fresh start.
And there's a distinction between what you did and that tried path, that it's beyond tried. It's almost like abused path of just kind of mindlessly going about following the pattern that you think you're supposed to. There's no questions asked. You're just following someone else's rhythm. It's not even your rhythm. Most of us don't stop to even question, okay, what are my desires? Who am I? What am I passionate about? Instead, we just plug ourselves into this false security of following somebody else's pattern. And the difference that I'm hearing in your story is that you actually had stepped away. It sounds like you had already been kind of moving to the beat of your own drum from early on. But what's different now is that instead of following somebody else's tried path, somebody else's pattern for life, you found purpose in it because it was actually yours. It wasn't somebody else's course.
Wow, that's huge. I've never had it actually played back to me like that, like you just did then. That's really powerful. That is so true. That is a very big point, because a lot of us do school, university, college degree, get the good grades, go to work. We hear this all the time, but you're right. I was beating my own path. I was trailblazing at a very young age, 15. I was rebellious, and I did leave school very early, and I did try lots of different things. I was traveling to Europe at 17, doing all sorts of different adventures over in Europe. So yes, trailblazing was my thing, and never really fitting into a mold, or I was a round peg, square hole, and they were just, but it just didn't work with me at all. My parents understood that from a very early age as well.
Oh, that's nice.
So
you don't hear that very often, so that's lovely to hear.
Yeah, it's awesome. And so as a result of that education, I got the job as the corporate accountant, and I hated it.
Oh dear.
With a passion.
Oh my goodness.
I hated it. It did. All of a sudden, I felt like my wings had been clipped. Mm-hmm. I felt like all of a sudden I'm stuck in a cubicle. I'm not connecting with people, because an accountant's role is you produce the numbers, you produce the financial reports, you attend meetings. That was about the only social interaction, but it wasn't great social interaction. You were reporting to people that you didn't always respect. The hierarchy was never always what you feel it should be. It was a toxic environment. And by toxic, I mean 65 people. After I left, I was only there for I was in one place, an organization, for about 2 years. I moved to another. I was there for 9 months. And then 65 people left in a matter of 2 years. And bosses and managers were actually escorted off their premises due to fraudulent activities. And so I found myself in amongst all of that toxicity. And you can imagine you've got managers and bosses trying to hide things and trying to do things in a very covert manner, what sort of culture that creates. And so I felt that. I didn't know that at the time, but I felt that there was something not right. So I did leave within 9 months. And I left with a lie, interestingly enough. We talk about conditioning and society. I told everyone that I had another job to go to, because we're always taught to never leave one job without getting another job. And isn't it funny? That goes across borders. It goes across waters. We're always told by our parents, you don't leave one job until you got another.
Yeah.
And I broke away from that and lied to employees and lied to bosses. And there was so much fear around leaving. However, I knew that the corporate 9 to 5, I felt trapped and obligated to that profession because of the amount of money that you invest in a degree. You know, you build up a HECS debt. We call it HECS debt here in Australia, a college debt in America. And so there's a sense of obligation there. However, I sort of went against all of that and decided to start my own business. And it's interesting because this is how it started. There's so much to share here, but I'll try and sort of cut this down a little bit. I was sent a book called You Were Born Rich by Bob Proctor. I've got a PDF copy of that if you want to provide that to your subscriber base.
Yes, please. Thank you.
It's freaking awesome. And I read the book, I opened that book and I read it, I consumed it within days from front to back. And it was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, where this stuff is out there and I have never been taught or shown this. And here I am in my 30s thinking, I cannot believe that I've never been taught this. You know, you are what you think about. You are your beliefs. And so then you ask the question, so what is a belief? A belief is a collection of thoughts that you keep thinking every day. And I think, wow. And I said to myself, well, what am I thinking? And am I good enough? Am I young enough? Am I old enough? Am I experienced enough? Do I have enough qualifications? I went to university to seek qualifications because I didn't feel adequate or enough. Mm-hmm. So he and that book taught me that you are what you think about, and you know, you are your beliefs. And so what are your beliefs? Your beliefs are a collection of thoughts that you're thinking every single day. So the next question was, well, how do I break that? How do I stop that? How do I change those beliefs? And that big question led me to going online within months of that. Actually, it wasn't even months. It was that week of reading that book. I plugged in my name and my email address to Bob Proctor. And then within, you know how it works, you get an email. And because I said to myself at the time, if he ever speaks here in Australia, I will go and see him. Well, lo and behold, I get this email and he was speaking. He had a seminar that was going to playing out in Vegas. And I'm sort of thinking, wow, what if I did that? That would be incredible. So I booked it and I took my daughter.
Oh my goodness.
I told my daughter. My daughter was immersed for 3 days in an environment and he loved it. He made special attention of Emily because she was so young. We traveled from Australia and she sat there with the big workbook that we got, was colouring in and doodling for the whole 3 days. How powerful for me and for her to receive that information. And that was another turning point for me, because sharing the stage with him was a woman that had developed a real estate company to an asset value of $19 million. She was the same age as me. She was the same ex-profession as a corporate accountant. And she was a single mum with a son. There were so many parallels to this woman that I was completely inspired by her. And she was a student of Bob's as well. So I approached her at the end and I said, you know what, I want to be a part of your coaching program. I just want to learn about real estate because I've always had this thing about real estate. And there's a bit of a story behind that as well. I won't go into that now. And I said, I really want to follow what you're doing. And I said, but I'm here for Bob Proctor. What do I do? She said, be coached by both of us.
Wow.
It's funny how the littlest things that they can tell you that can trigger and give you permission and validation.
That's right.
For the next leg of your journey. And that's all I needed to hear. So I came back to Australia, and that's it. I was coached by both of them in 2006. And that was the most powerful. And also Jay Abraham was a part of that journey as well. So he's a huge business coach, massive in America. He's coached thousands of businesses. And I was in small groups, mastermind groups with them all three for 12, 18 months. Very powerful. So I flew from Australia to there. In the meantime, I was building a network marketing business, and it was giving me cash flow. And I was also building real estate as well in Australia. However, I had no idea how to do it in America. And obviously, having now 3 networks in America, you can imagine what that opened me up to.
Wow.
A whole world of opportunity. And this is the power of masterminding, the power of connecting with individuals from around the world. You will be presented with opportunities that you will never know existed until you're part of something bigger.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So powerful. So that took me on a 12-year journey. I built a business called Buying USA Real Estate Training. And it was called Buying USA Real Estate at first. And that was the sourcing of foreclosed properties and then providing them to Australians that wanted a great investment.
Oh, wow.
And that was, successful, slow, very slow, because it was one-on-one. I'd spend 3 months with a client, and I believe now that I was very much undercharging. And I felt like I really wasn't getting ahead as I should have been. I mean, offering these amazing opportunities to Australians from thousands of miles away, and I just wasn't getting ahead as quick as I should have been. And it was as a result of me being me and not leveraging myself and not using tools, a bit like what we are now, to leverage ourselves to be able to get more and more people interested, and obviously leverage your time and leverage the amount of money that can be earned potentially through a business.
Would you say then at the root of that was a mindset?
Yes.
Hindrance? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And actually not even taking the business to the level it should have been taken to was definitely mindset. Not ever being at that level before and not understanding how to bring it in. I believe that there was self-sabotage going on. I felt it was external influences that were happening because I was building teams in America, and building teams internationally is like, wow, you've got people dynamics to deal with. You've got investors that were very demanding to deal with. And I did that for 10 to 12 years because I loved real estate. I loved the sourcing. I didn't like dealing with investors and some of the team issues that were going on. And that was starting to hold me back. And I was starting to get anxious and stressed and just not understanding, knowing that I really loved the fact that I wanted a business to give me the freedom and the flexibility, because that's what I appreciated so much. My number one value is independence. Okay. And so, having the business was freaking awesome. However, it brought with it a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, and people. I was attracting people that I didn't really want to deal with. And I think this is when you go on a journey and you get very clear about who you are and your purpose, and more importantly, your values. What is it that you value the most? You filter everything through that purpose and those values. And I didn't even understand that until 2 years ago. And that was being introduced to an online business model. And wow, the first year of being exposed to this, I parceled up everything I knew about real estate, all of my experiences, all of my stories, all of my background, all of my intellectual property, parceled it all up, put it into a training video series. I literally put a tripod in my lounge room with an iPhone and filmed or videoed the 7 steps to buying USA real estate training.
Wow.
And it was just everything that I knew about what needs to happen for an Australian to invest in a new country. And it's 14 foundational videos, and it's up there for everyone to see if they want to go and have a look at it, just to see what you can do with an online business and what you can do with the tools that we have access to. It's so, so powerful. So as a consultant, that's really what I was. I understood in that moment, it took me that year, I understood the power of what you can do as an online business model. So then I went through a branding process in December 2016. Oh my goodness. I went to, that was in Brisbane, Australia, and all these light bulbs were just like going off everywhere. And I'm thinking to myself, gee, for the last 12 years, I've been a front-end marketing piece for really other people, for another business, for other teams, for other contractors. I like pulled it all together. So I would market it and then really just send them to the people that could do everything for them. And I'm thinking, so the affiliate marketing model for an online business is like that. That's exactly what you're doing. And how much easier. Yeah. You've got a huge company that's handling the finance, the infrastructure, the logistics, the moving of products and services, the customer service. I'm thinking, man.
Wow, you still own your own business.
Correct. You're an independent business owner. You are the marketer, and then everything else gets handled. Mm-hmm. So I just thought, brilliant. So last year, 2017, I transitioned, which was a tough thing because my identity and who I was and who I knew myself to be was a buying USA real estate business owner. And for those business owners that are listening to this, they will be thinking to themselves, oh my goodness, like I have one business already. How on earth could I even handle a second business? However, what it is, it's the transitioning of what you do now to what you can do potentially through an online business.
That's right.
And I just want to make that clear because it is a bit of a struggle for any business owner because they've really hung their hat on a particular business, their identity, everything they're about, part of their DNA becomes that business. Sure. And it's that transitioning through to, you can use these tools, everything that we're doing, to enhance that business that you already have, or you will find, like me, this can be a whole lot easier. And it took time. It's taken 2 years, really effectively, to transition the mindset more than anything to where I am today. And so 2017, affiliate marketer for an online business, and, you know, made the first sale in March. You could say by June, I'd replaced a monthly full-time salary as a finance professional. And so that's when you understand the power of what you have in your hands. And results are different for everyone. Okay. And I think, and you would explain this to your subscribers, that it depends on the amount of fire in your belly, the drive that you have to make change, good change, the persistence and the commitment and the dedication. Nothing to do with technical skills, nothing to do with what knowledge I have and what degrees and what qualifications, nothing to do with any of that. It comes down to the fire in your belly, how big you want this change to be, and being patient with yourself and the results and what it is that you want to achieve, being patient, letting go, knowing what those goals are. However, having the mindset to understand that you can just let go of those results, just be in the doing every day, but just not attaching yourself too much to those results and measuring yourself by those results. I think this is a great message for anyone in any business. Just letting go, just not measuring yourself. We're just taught to do that through life and through society. And yeah, I achieved, some incredible progress in last year by those results, and then qualifying for a program, what's called 10 for 10 leadership program. And that is where you reach so much in your sales revenue, and you also have so many members in your business. So it's not, I'm going to pay to get in there. It's, do I qualify to get in there? And that was a huge achievement. You're talking, the top 1-2%, not just of an organization. You're talking globally, potentially, a small percentage of people that have achieved sales and membership subscription online. So that was a massive achievement. That was really the pinnacle. I've traveled to many countries in the last 18 months. I spent a lot of time in Asia in 2016. Went to Brisbane, obviously, for a branding process, and then went to Toronto in Canada. I spent about 2 months in the US. Actually, it was longer. It was 3 months. I extended the trip because I wanted to go to Phoenix, Arizona, and then Perth, Australia, and then London this year, and now heading off to the Dominican in 2 weeks. Yeah. Dominican in 2 weeks, and then North Carolina. So, and what's exciting about that whole thing is you're traveling for your business. Mm-hmm. I mean, you are plugging in wherever you go. You're plugging in laptop, internet connection. You're plugging in. The exciting part is I'm going to conferences that, if I was an accountant, like back in the day, and they're saying, oh, you're going to go to a fringe benefits tax conference, or you're going to go to a capital gains tax conference, and we're going to send you off. I would not be cheering for that. Yeah. However, I get so excited knowing that I'm going to these conferences that's going to teach me new ways to just advance my business and just network with many people from Europe, America, Australia, Canada, just from all around the world. I'm mixing with people every time I turn up to one of these events.
And I would just want to add too, for anybody who hasn't experienced one of the events, that it's not a dry sort of professional interaction. There's true camaraderie, and there's an intimacy, there's a vulnerability and a transparency, because away from, how do I say this? Behind the scenes, we have a lively community that's in constant interaction. And if you haven't engaged that community yet, there's no chance that you have any inkling of the right idea of what it is that we have. We're really unique in terms of the quality of people that we attract. And quite honestly, I've said this before, that I think, and your story touches on this, I think that there's one of the common threads that we have, and granted there's always exceptions, but one of the common threads we have through our community is that people have sampled what life has to offer, and they found it wanting. So there was a bit of brokenness at some point in each of their stories. And when you've experienced that grave disappointment, it stirs a hunger in you and a willingness to make sacrifices and to work hard for what you truly stand for. And all of a sudden you're like, you've had your experiences with the bullshit, and you have no interest in that anymore. And you're like, you know what, I'm gonna try this thing about, of living authentically. I'm gonna just try it and see what happens. And then all of a sudden what blossoms forth is this beautiful being full of potential and vision and hope. And it's like, once you savor it, you don't want to let it go. So anytime we come together in one of these events, that's who we're in the company of. And yes. It's just like the cherry on top is the training, right?
Yes, totally. The community, just wow. Where do you start? Because people say, oh, community, and people go, oh, what's a community all about? It's masterminding at such a high level. It's a bigger conversation. You're playing a bigger game. And I don't want people to be in any way fearful around that conversation, even the conversation I'm having now about having a bigger conversation, because what it does is it inspires you, it creates that fire in the belly, it helps you, they support you, they guide you. You're with people that are completely like-minded to your cause and to your vision. We all have different causes, we all have different visions, we all have different goals. However, we're paving this common thread, this common path. And you're right, we've come from adversity. Every single person has come through some sort of adversity. And out of that adversity, they've said, I don't want this crap anymore, or I don't want this bullshit anymore, or I don't want this stuff anymore. I want to live an authentic life, something that's real, something that's true, and something that's going to provide me and my family a future, and a future lifestyle as well. Because I think that's the most important thing. Is it's not about the millions of dollars. It's about the ability to say, yes, I'm going to book that plane flight now and I'm going to go next week. Yes, I'm going to my daughter's graduation next Friday, because my daughter graduates actually next Friday. So yes, regardless, I'm going. You can say yes to the Dominican Republic in 2 weeks' time. I made a decision 2 weeks ago. You can make decisions around what it is you want to gift or provide your family. It's the freedom and the flexibility that provides, the choices that provides, and that's what I'm experiencing.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing is, time and again, I hear this from others. So, and I know that it's more broadly true as well. But when people found out that I wasn't working any longer for somebody else, the question I commonly get is, "Oh my gosh, what do you do with yourself? Like, I wouldn't even know what to do." And I think that's so sad.
Wow.
I'm so wedded to our role of serving somebody else and being somebody other than we are, that in our freedom, in those inklings of freedom, we don't even know who to be or what to do. And so, like, what you're touching on right now, like you said, it's bigger. It's bigger because it's returning you to who you were actually supposed to be. We weren't supposed to be like you touched on earlier when you were speaking, somebody who just assumed this rote process that somebody else dictated. Who wrote that script for our life? We didn't write it. And we've removed ourselves. So we're emotionally removed ourselves from our life. We have to, right, in order to show up for the mundane every day, the mundane process, that when we're given the opportunity, we don't even know how to dream anymore. And so that's essentially what you're touching on, is that we have been equipped to leverage the internet in a way that, yes, affords us a lifestyle, but first and foremost, it affords us the opportunity to return to our dreams. Like, what does that even mean, right? We have been given the liberty to daydream, to have those youthful fantasies. You know what I mean? Like, it's not intolerable. It doesn't need to be, it shouldn't be scoffed at. Like, that's our uniqueness. And that's why each of us have a different desire. And to live from that place of desire, it brings fulfillment and reward to every other aspect of your life.
That is so true. And as you were saying that, I was in touch with exactly how I feel right in this moment. And I'm thinking to myself, so how do I feel right in this moment? And I feel light. I feel shed of all of material. I don't even know what that means, but I feel lighter. I feel freer. I feel like I can breathe and physically move. I feel like I'm healthier. I feel like I can just do anything. And so how do you get to that place of being such a powerful individual? And I don't talk about powerful in its traditional sense. I just talk about it from a sense of beingness, like in your core being. We carry around so much luggage and stuff. How do we shed that luggage and stuff? And it takes a journey. And it's been the most accelerated in the last 2 years. And it's because of what we have in our hands is a combination of not just a business model and a tool to generate income. It's a community, and it's a training and education and a personal development package as well. So the most powerful thing, now if you go searching, and I've done a lot of coaching and I've been on this journey for some time, you will find one or you'll find the other.
Right.
You do not find both.
Yes.
And both being done really, really well. And that's the difference.
That's right.
Of what we have and what we've been exposed to here.
I completely agree.
So I hope all of that makes sense.
Beautiful sense. What I inside of me is you've been awakened to your potential.
Yes.
We've been awakened to our potential. And it would be a shame if once we've been awakened to it, it'd be a shame to walk away from it. And quite honestly, I don't know how, once your appetite is stirred, I don't know how you could. And
you can't.
Yeah, I think that's why we have in part the community that we have.
Yes.
People have been awakened to their potential.
You can't go back.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go back. It's interesting because talking on the community, just a recent situation that happened with me is that my business went through a complete restructure. And I thought at the time, and this was not that long ago, it's still very fresh and still very raw. And as a result of that business restructure, I thought things were actually falling apart for me, because not every journey is a smooth ride, right? It's like, I got into this business, and for the last 2 years, travel and everything, it's all been, yes. You're going to have your issues and your adversities within this journey and situation as well. The difference between having those challenges and me having those challenges before is that I now have so much support and guidance and people that will reach out and say, come on, Trish, you might think that this is all falling apart right now, but it's falling into place for you.
That's beautiful.
It's actually falling into place for you. It's now going to take you to a whole nother level. Mm-hmm. So watch out. Watch this space, as they say. Watch this space. So community, even though we go community, what does community mean? Community means like-minded, masterminding, people that have very similar goals, or maybe not similar goals, but a similar path that we all help. And we come to the table saying, how can I help Sarah? How can I help her to advance her business? How can I help her to provide her with the resources or the connections or the contacts? It's this selflessness of people, a community coming together and just saying, how can I help Sarah? And even just us doing this today, we're helping each other.
Selflessness is the perfect word, and it's a foreign word in more corporate structures. I had an email just recently, a guy was asking me, if this is so great, why do you want to share it? I would just want to hog it off for myself. And I think, oh my goodness, you've totally missed it. I get where you're coming from, because you're coming from the dog eat dog world. But think of a global community where there's no way that Trish has the full extent of the skill set necessary to take on everything she wants to take on. But now she's got an arsenal, a community-wide, global-wide arsenal of support and skill set that she can literally leverage to the betterment of your success in your business. That's what we have in working together.
Such a good point. You have absolutely nailed it there with just that, the fact that you've got at your fingertips the skill, talents, and abilities of hundreds, if not thousands of people, right, that potentially you can tap into. And, as a business owner, independent business owner, physical business owner, consultant before, it was the power of that business was all about the ability of you building teams and putting the right people around you that had the right skills and expertise. Because I'm not an attorney. I might be an accountant, but I'm not a tax accountant in the US that in specific states that can handle my situation. I'm not a insurance broker, so it is all about being that person that can actually position yourself in amongst all of that skill, ability, and talent. And you have just nailed it there by saying that what you are doing effectively with this business is you are positioning yourself in amongst all of that skill, talent, ability around you. I think that's brilliant. And I've actually not heard that before. So I think that's awesome.
It is awesome. We're very fortunate. Absolutely fortunate. Well, I have loved hearing your story. And quite honestly, just selfishly, I am so inspired. So thank you for lifting my spirits.
Awesome.
It's just, it's always enlivening when we get to be with one another and to hear one another's story. So it breathes new life into me. So thank you so much. And that's it. I really have nothing. So do you have any closing words, anything stirring inside?
Yeah, I do, because I just want to thank you for the conversation that we've had here today. I don't even feel like it was an interview whatsoever. I think that you have delivered so much incredible value. And for me, you've just triggered so many thoughts and ideas in myself as this conversation unfolded. And you've articulated things in such a different way. And this is the importance, I think, whether it comes through as a book, whether it comes through as an audio, whether it comes through to you as an interview like it does here, or a conversation. It doesn't matter how it comes to you. It's just by being in it every day, it just triggers and inspires these different ideas and motivators that then really say to you, they sort of say, right, I want to get started, or I want to get going, or I want to do this, or I want to write my book, or I want to do this audio program, or I really want to. And so I think there's nothing more inspiring than listening to something like even what we've done here today to just inspire anyone out there that just wants something a bit different. I think you've done an awesome job, and I've so enjoyed this.
Oh, so have I. Thank you. I really appreciate it. It really has been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I'll see you then in June, if not before.
Definitely. Are you going to North Carolina?
Yes, absolutely. And I believe my whole family will be there again. So
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm like you in the early days with your daughter. I'm schlepping around like kids.
That's it.
I offer no apologies, because I think I'm doing them such a service.
Yes, for sure.
Exposing them to this. And I can't wait. Part of their homeschooling is going to be engaging the digital economy. I'm setting up an e-commerce site for each of my children. And as they mature, they'll assume more and more responsibility. And you know what? I never would have even thought of such a note. I would never have had such a notion. So, I mean, this is just the beginning of the possibilities. It's wonderful.
That's awesome. That's so exciting. And there's nothing more important than teaching financial literacy to your children, and then the business literacy as well that accompanies that. I think is very powerful. I mean, they'll make their own choices. However, what an incredible, I wish I had that head start in life, right? Thanks, Sarah. That was awesome.
Hey, Trish, take care.
Bye-bye.